All right, welcome to the Global Seminar Meet the Professor information session for Visual Culture and Resistance in Mexico. We're really excited to have you here and to talk about this great new global seminar. Before we get to introductions, I want to let you know that we are recording. It will only be shared with the students who registered for the info session, trying to make it so it's not publicly accessible. But just a heads up, any questions you ask in chat, we'll just reiterate and answer on video. But then any questions, if you come off mute and want to ask live, will be included in the recording. All right, so just a couple very important global seminar reminders. The first one is that hopefully you are aware that we did a general information session, and that went into far more detail on the timeline, application, budget, financial aid, and different other resources a couple of weeks ago. And so you can watch that recording. And so we're not going to dive into a lot of detail about all of those aspects of it since we spent about an hour doing it already. But I'll try and answer any questions that you might have today. We will also have another in-person general session in the dance hall in a couple of weeks, just as another chance for students to interact and get their questions answered in person. One of the most important things from that general information session I will reiterate is that students should review the cancellation policy and the withdrawal deadlines. The withdrawal deadline is March 1st. You can sort of see on this chart from our website how it breaks down in terms of timeline and what is or is not refundable at it, depending on if/when you withdraw. If you're the one caveat is that if the program is canceled for some reason, you will not be charged, and even the $250 deposit will be refunded. I'd love to talk about some program specifics. So hopefully this visual looks familiar to you from the general session, but we have clarified and narrowed the range for that program fee. So we usually break the financial cost down into 3 categories. So these first 2 buckets are what are due to UC San Diego. So the program fee for this program includes housing, which is a homestay, and meals at that homestay for the first 4 weeks. It includes all on-site support and excursions, classroom, insurance, transit, all that good stuff. And then the estimated out-of-pocket personal expenses are actually quite a bit lower than most other programs, particularly because the airfare is going to be significantly lower. And then you don't forget that that does include meals for 1 week. Oh, sorry, I should elaborate more verbally. That the program cost is looking like it's going to be about $6,000, but just to manage expectations, it looks like the range might be from $5,700 to as much as $6,200. But as I said, it includes all of these factors. Other program specifics about the application, just a reminder that placeholders are accepted for transcript if you're in your first term here at UC San Diego. For your passport. And by the way, yes, before anybody asks me, you do need to have a passport book for this program, even though passport cards are available for travel to Mexico. We require you have that passport because it's not like it's just across the border in Tijuana. It is deep in the heart of Mexico. And so we want to make sure that you have the ability to fly home if necessary. And then the other thing a placeholder is accepted for is the health clearance. Now, a travel clinic is needed for this program, so keep that in mind as well. But again, we can accept a placeholder and accept you conditionally. There are no, as far as I know, please correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Fattal, that there are no prerequisites for this program. So you don't have to worry about that. For visas, U.S. pass holders do not require a visa. Non-U.S. passport holders, if you have an F1 student visa or a green card, apparently that's waived. The visa is waived by Mexico. They trust that if you got ours, then you'll be fine. If you have a different type of visa or other green card, it's going to vary. Ultimately, it's the responsibility of the student that you are able to enter Mexico. If you do need a visa, we'll provide support documentation in March. Now, when it comes to returning to the US, if you do not have a US passport, we want to make sure that you check with the coordinating authority, whether that is ISEO, if you have an F1 visa, if you're an international student, or with your sponsor or lawyer, if you have a different visa or a green card. All right, we have some fall events coming up. So our study abroad fair, the expo, is going to be next 1 week from today in Town Square from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. So we'll have a lot of representatives from different study abroad, from different types of study abroad, including a couple tables for global seminars. And I believe, Professor Fattal, you'll actually be there, will you not? Yep. So you can come by and hopefully it overlaps with the time he's there. For financial aid, we do have some upcoming information sessions that Eduardo Vagayan is offering. He's the study abroad financial aid counselor. And so those are later this month, but he'll also have a table at Expo as well. He just won't be able to do any, he certainly won't be able to do any direct advising and pull up your aid package, but he can answer some general questions. If you do have a question for him, he usually comes to our Friday drop-ins if he's available and healthy. Otherwise, you can request a one-on-one with him by going to the Financial Aid Scholarships Office, hitting the Contact Us button, and then submit a question. From there, there's going to be a drop-down where you can select study abroad, so it'll get directly to him. How to reach me or any other study abroad advisor is primarily through the Virtual Advising Center. You can ask questions, submit questions on the Virtual Advising Center, or you can request appointments if you're not able to come to any of the drop-ins. Just send a VAC that states that, and don't forget to include the program you're interested in. Those drop-ins are Monday and Thursday, 1 to 3, and then Fridays from 10 to 11:30. Again, Fridays are the ones that also have the financial aid counselor. Our in-person event space, usually more for pre-departure orientations later in the year, as well as for the general session we're going to have later this month, is going to be in the dance hall of UC 409 up here. So hopefully you can navigate that. Amphitheater is to the right. Price Center is sort of where it says us and how to reach us. So hopefully you can navigate from there. Any questions about these logistics that I went over? Feel free to ask them now in chat or come off mute. Otherwise, I will turn it over to the faculty.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Lisa. And thank you to those who are here in the Zoom room and whoever is watching the recording after the fact. I love that you're interested in this program. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out via email. My email is afattal@ucsd.edu. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I have a little presentation here. And that screen share working for folks? Okay, great. So this program is called Visual Culture and Resistance, and it is actually in 2 locations in Mexico City. Overwhelmingly, it's in Oaxaca City. We're based in Oaxaca City for 4 weeks, and then in the last week, we are going to move to Mexico City. And this is just an extraordinary context to look at this theme, because the visual culture is so rich, and the questions of the political questions about this contemporary moment that not only Mexico is experiencing, but the whole world is experiencing, and trying to think through what comes after kind of neoliberalism, or what comes after this moment where we've kind of entrusted the markets to do so much work, and then that.
Sorry to interrupt. I think you moved your screen. We're just seeing redwoods.
Oh no. Okay. I tried to make it full screen slideshow.
Oh, that must have.
Let me try that again. Yeah.
Yep, we see it again.
The redwoods or the.
No, oh, sorry. We see the presentation again.
Yeah. Great. So I'll jump right into why I think these are such extraordinary destinations for this theme in particular. Oaxaca is a crucial state with Mexico. It is the center of indigenous thought and power. There were teachers' strikes in 2006 and 2016 that really really forced the country to rethink what it was doing in terms of some of the relationships it was having with free trade that was, accelerating a lot of political instability. So it's been a center of activism, and its political relevance, I would argue, is downstream of just the fact that it's a cultural center. It's a cultural center for so many indigenous communities, primarily the Zapotec and Mixtec communities, but also the Mazatec, the Mixe, the Chinantec, and the Triqui indigenous communities. Oaxaca has more speakers of indigenous languages than any other state in Mexico. So even if you speak Spanish, even if you have Mexican heritage, if you're not coming from Oaxaca, this is going to be an intercultural experience in its own right. Its cultural production, film, visual art, textiles, they're extraordinary. They're often influenced by the fact that it's become a real destination for other people in Mexico, for people in Mexico City. There's just a lot of not only indigenous cultures, but kind of contemporary cultural forces that are kind of all mixing together and making for a really dynamic context. And another reason is there's a large Oaxacan population here on the California, here in San Diego, in Oregon, throughout the West Coast. So, often we travel abroad in part as a way of kind of understanding ourselves and our own culture. And so I think Oaxaca is a particularly kind of fertile area for that. Those are some of the kind of intellectual reasons. There are many other reasons as well, right? It is beautiful. It is a stunning place to go. It is surrounded by rugged mountains that connect the Sierra Madre del Sur and the Sierra Madre de Oaxaca. It's about 3 hours to the Pacific Ocean with beautiful beaches. It is, as Lisa mentioned, perhaps a little bit cheaper than some of the global seminar options. I had a wonderful experience in South Africa, but that's quite a plane ticket to go all the way to South Africa. It has great weather. It's, in July, it's going to be in the low 80s and definitely warm, but not too hot because we're going to be at an elevation in the mountains. And there'll be some nice short showers in the afternoon. Should I mention that it has absolutely amazing food? It does. We're definitely going to eat well. And the global seminar does correspond with the major indigenous festival of Huelahuetza, and we will get to experience that in late July. Okay, excuse me. So what are the classes? The classes are Cinema in Latin America, COMM 140 GS, and Community and Ethnography, Critical and Practical Approaches to Fieldwork, COMM 117 GS. Now, the 140 class is a class that I teach. I'm offering it this winter, the non-GS version, and it looks at kind of the tradition of filmmaking in Latin America, where directors have understood their job as kind of creating social change. So they see making film as a form of struggle. And so here I've included a photograph from Patricio Guzman's The Battle for Chile, which was this three-part series that documented the social and political conditions leading to the coup in 1973 in Chile. So we'll kind of go through some important films in Latin America more broadly, starting in the 1960s, but more than half the course will be dedicated to films that are in that vein, but in the Mexican and particularly the Southern Mexican context. So I think it's going to be inspiring to be in Mexico and be seeing these really dynamic films about how filmmakers are imagining the possibilities of social and political change. The other course is really a fieldwork course. It's a hands-on course. We're partnering with a local nonprofit organization called Cicanda, and they have a whole host of programs, whether it's putting together new libraries for the communities or working on bike mobility or projects that are empowering women to kind of make their own money and be strong, independent women. Another program to prevent sexual violence, promoting youth culture and kind of strengthening community through kind of youth activities, working on different recycling initiatives and different kind of early childhood education initiatives. So what we're going to do is we're going to break into small groups, and you are going to work with a few of your classmates, kind of supporting one of the programs at Cicanda and kind of reflecting on that process. Ethnography is a methodology, a social science methodology that is often glossed as deep hanging out. So the thought is, statistics and some of these more quantitative or short-term methods can only get us so far in understanding another culture. And so it takes spending time with people, forging relationships of trust that will enable us to really understand and reflect on a local culture and different dynamics that are at play. So this is going to be a very field-based course. We will do a little bit of reading about ethnography, and particularly ethnographies of Oaxaca that are really some extraordinary works. So I'm excited for both of these courses. Do the classes count towards my requirements? Okay. We want to inspire you, but we also want you to kind of advance your education here at UCSD. So yes, COMM 140 is a registered DEI class across the university. So perhaps that might help with some of your general requirements. 140 GS and COMM 117 GS, they both count as upper level electives for the COMM major. So if you are in the communication major, this makes a lot of sense. This might help you, perhaps graduate a quarter early. You can kind of clear your deck of electives perhaps a little bit earlier than you might have if you didn't take this global seminar. COMM 140 also counts to the film studies minor. So that's if you're doing the film studies minor, which is a really exciting program, you get credit towards that. 140 GS is being considered as a GE elective for 8th college. So those of you in 8th college, fingers crossed, we should get news in the coming weeks or months that COMM 140 is one of their lists, is on their list of kind of electives for their GE requirements. And COMM 117 GS, here I have to be a little bit careful about the wording, but is very much in the spirit of the CCE series in 8th college. That's critical community engagement. And it might be considered an alternative to CCE 120. CCE 120 is the capstone course in the 3-course series. in 8th College, and students can submit and petition that certain classes be understood as an alternative to that. And I'm in lots of communication with the 8th College leadership, and there's a lot of interest in that. But as this is the first time we're running the program, if you do go on the trip with 8th College, it will be a little bit of a test case, and it might require you to do the petitioning and kind of forge that path for others who might want to do it next year. But feel free to reach out to me or the folks in 8th College about that if you have questions. We're going to take a series of really interesting excursions. One is to this kind of iconic Zapotec archaeological site called Mont Alban. And, you know, if the theme visual culture and resistance, we want to take it all the way back to the colonial encounter, right? There was, the indigenous communities have these kind of rich cultural traditions that we can see in these archaeological sites, many of which have shown kind of elaborate artistic works. And we will get tours by experts in this history. Oaxaca, of course, is a center of textiles, and we understand textiles within the visual arts more broadly. And we'll go to the Oaxaca Textile Museum, which is a very beautiful space. La Clinica Art Gallery is regionally renowned as a place where a lot of contemporary artists want to come and do residencies. They have great programming. They have really amazing exhibitions at any given time. So the one of the directors of the gallery will take us through there. We'll get to meet some of the artists who are in residence there. And then we'll visit the Cine Club El Pochote, which is a kind of independent cinema space in Oaxaca. And the final week in Mexico, I'm going to say, is going to be a little bit intense, right? Because there's so much to do in Mexico City. It's so rich, especially on this theme, that we're going to be moving around at the same time that you're kind of wrapping up your final project. So you're going to end this global seminar a little bit tired. You'll be tired, but you'll hopefully very energized and fulfilled. So we'll go to the Museo Universitario Arte Contemporáneo, which is in the UNAM, which is the major university in Mexico. It's a world-renowned public university. It's an entire sprawling campus. It's almost a city within a city. And we are going to check out their art museum. And I think just being on that campus is going to be really important. And we will go to the Zócalo and Templo Mayor. There we'll visit the National Palace, where Diego Rivera, Orozco, and others have their murals. And obviously these are kind of icons of visual culture and resistance in not only Mexico, but the whole world. With the Cineteca Nacional, we're going to get a stark contrast with the Cine Club El Pochote. These are two totally different scales. And I think that's one of the fun parts of this project, of this global seminar, is that we're moving between scales, between the regional and the national scale. And that comparison that we're going to get towards the end of the program, I think is going to be really rich. The Cineteca Nacional within Latin America is kind of one of the most important film venues. And, you know, we can't have a global seminar on this topic and not check out Frida Kahlo's house and garden, which was the scene of so many kind of intellectual encounters, whether with the French surrealists, and, you know, scenes of her own artwork. And it's a beautiful space. It's a beautiful space. So it'll be a good place to kind of end up. Quickly, in terms of the logistics, in Oaxaca City, we're going to be living with host families, which I think is the absolute best way to go in terms of having a kind of cultural experience. I mean, what you're going to be learning in these classes is going to be great. But the kind of cultural learning that's going to happen when you go home, when you kind of forge relationships with your host brothers and sisters, mothers and fathers, or however you want to conceive of this kind of familial relationship, that is going to really inform your experience. And so is you'll be near the downtown area, which is where we'll be taking the classes. The classes will be at the Universidad Autónoma Benito Juárez de Oaxaca, which is in the colonial downtown area. So that's all pretty compact, convenient, and fascinating. Mexico City, I understand we're staying in a hotel. I don't know quite what neighborhood yet. And the class location, I should say location. Class location is TBD. One of the things that I'm so excited about is the opportunity to get to know you all in a different way than I do in a kind of a standard class that I might give. Like I teach COMM 10, which is our introductory course that can have up to 450 students. And obviously my ability to kind of learn about my students as individuals is quite limited there. And even in the smaller courses that I teach junior seminars that are capped at 28. But even in those classes, I won't be able to know my students in the same way as I will in an experience like this. So I'm really excited to just have a really meaningful interaction with all of you who decide to go. I myself, in terms of my research interests, is some questions of the politics of visual culture, mostly in the context of Colombia. So I've written two books. One is this guerrilla marketing book, which is about how the Colombian military recruited an advertising agency to try to lure people out of the insurgency, a kind of left-wing guerrilla movement in Colombia. And it was about how kind of military and marketing expertise came together in that moment. The other kind of emerged out of an experience that I had just after undergrad, teaching photography to young people. And that project really, it just went really well, and it ended up being an NGO, and the NGO lasted for 11 years, working with people, many of whom had been displaced by the armed conflict in Colombia, and teaching youth from that community to take their own photographs. And so the book reflects on that whole process, that kind of participatory photography. And I'm also a filmmaker. I've made two shorts. One short in Brazil called Trees Tropiques, which was a family portrait of this family that lives along the Amazon, where the kind of Amazon River empties into the Atlantic Ocean. And it was a wonderful experience, and I'm very happy with the film that came out of it. It's about kind of deforestation, but the kind of complicated social dynamics that are going on, and not in the kind of large scale deforestation, but the kind of smaller scale deforestation that's happening as communities are chopping down old growth trees and putting up these acai trees. So if you're eating an acai bowl or something like that, this is one of the areas where that acai is coming from. The other film is about a former guerrilla from the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia. And it was shot entirely in a truck that I transformed into a camera obscura. So I won't get into all the details, but it was a really fun project that was a very DIY film experiment. And basically, if you remember the pinhole camera from like grade school, the optical effect is the world is upside down behind you. So we had a former guerrilla telling his story as the world is going upside down behind him. So it was a kind of conceptual play, and it went, it's had a good run, this Limbo film. I'd be happy to tell you all more about that. I've also, I go back. I've also helped launch nonprofit organizations dedicated to the multimedia arts. One is here in San Diego that's still going. It's celebrating 25 years right now. It's called the Aja Project. You can check it out at theajaproject.org. And it's just doing amazing work. And I'm so proud that it's still going. It's very much in line with the Shooting Cameras for Peace program that I did in Colombia, and I kind of folded those programs together. So though my work is scholarly and I write books and I also make films, but I also have this kind of community orientation. So I bring all of that with me into the global seminar. And, finally, I would just say that I would not be who I am without study abroad. It has been absolutely transformative, and I want this global seminar to be transformative for you. So in my junior year, and I'm dating myself here. So in 1999, I was a junior in college, and that summer through the kind of public policy program on campus, I got to go to South Africa for a summer, and I met a group of uh, actors and actresses who were theater activists back during apartheid in the 1980s, and they were worried about the youth back then in the 1990s kind of losing their political interests, and so they wanted to kind of keep a theater group going. And so I was placed in an NGO to help support them do that work. And when I was there, I met a photographer, and he showed me his negatives that had been burnt by the apartheid government. And it was really that moment, which was like 26 years ago, that I really sensed the power of images, right? And that kind of sent me on this whole path to try to think about what is the power of images to help frame our individual and collective memories, to kind of frame the kind of political world that we live in. So after that summer, I went straight to Chile. I spent about 9 months total in the Southern Hemisphere for a semester abroad in Chile. And here you see a memorial of their September 11th. Their September 11th was the day of the coup in 1973. And then the major soccer stadium there was a place where a lot of people were tortured. So outside of the soccer stadium, they're having a vigil there. So I took a picture during my semester abroad. And I also did a cultural exchange program as a senior in Russia, Kiev, Russia, about five hours out south of Moscow. So anyway, I wish I could have stayed as an undergraduate forever and continued doing global seminars and study abroad programs. And I'm really, really excited to be leading one this summer. So that's it for me. I want to hear your questions, both right now for those of you who are here, but also for those of you who are watching the recording. Really don't hesitate at all to send me an email. You can find me on the communication department website. I'm happy to get a coffee and talk about it. So don't be shy. Okay, I'm seeing the chat here.
Thanks so much for joining us. Does anyone who's here have any questions that we can answer on the recording? Great question. The question is, are the courses taught in Spanish or English? They're going to be taught in English. No Spanish, no language. There's no language requirement for this program. That said, I think because of the homestays, I recommend learning some basic Spanish so you can communicate with your host families. And in general, get around Mexico.
Great question.
And I'll also add, so while the on-campus version is fulfills the DEI, we still do have to go through the process of requesting that the GS version fulfill the DEI. So that's not quite guaranteed yet. Just hang in with us. Usually it's not a problem to get a GS version approved. Ooh, they're asking about grading and assessment. Oh, but then following on from the previous question, I will answer this one. Would each student stay with a different host family, or is it multiple students per host family? Most of the students will have a different host family. Occasionally, the host families have a big enough space to host two. So it just depends, you know, there's a lot of different types. I will say to manage your expectations, not everyone in the world lives the way we do. There might be some more humble situations that you should be ready for.
And I would actually
That said, every home definitely has Wi-Fi, so you can do your work.
Yeah, I would just say, you know, the way I've approached things, I know we have a lot of options in Europe, and Europe's great. My own personal sense is I can do Europe when I'm old. You know, I have prioritized, you know, Latin America and Sub-Saharan Africa in my travels as a younger man. And I do think there's something about you know, a little bit more rugged environment that that is formative. So yeah, if there's a challenging homestay, I see that as a real opportunity. Challenging in the sense that, you know, you might have to shift your expectations, because being abroad that's what it's about, right? It's about kind of shifting your perspective, and it gives you this kind of neuroplasticity that you have when you're a kid. I have a 3.5-year-old right now, and she's making sense of the world every day. And in a way, it's a kind of a return to that. And that you have to figure a lot of things out. Okay, assessments and grading. You know, I haven't finalized what I'm thinking about here, but provisionally, I would say that, you know, for the community and ethnography class, it's going to be group work, because it's mostly a project-based course that will have the final assignment will be a reflection of some sort, like some kind of ethnographic materials, of kind of writing up of some field notes. And field notes as a way of kind of getting you documenting your experience as a means of reflecting on your experience. And so because we do have this DEI orientation, it's one of the things it's trying to get you to do is to think about your own position vis-a-vis this context, these communities, how this kind of contact of you coming into the world that your small group is going to be kind of volunteering in. So that's for that class. The other class, I'm thinking 2 film reviews are probably going to be the assessments. So those could be reviews of films that we watch in class, or they could be reviews of films that you might have to go out and see on your own, hopefully in person and not on a screen. But we are trying to get you to sharpen your kind of film analysis capability, and also your kind of writing skills. So that's my provisional answer to that question.
One frequently asked questions that we get, apologies if I just forgot you mentioning this. I'm doing a lot of info sessions, you guys. Sometimes I forget who said what. But did you indicate what days you're planning to have classes, and what their when their free days might be?
Well, I think what I've determined is we want to leave either the Monday or the Friday open, right? I'm not sure exactly how it'll work, because the Friday might be best utilized for the excursions. So it might be that the Monday is kind of free, and that we concentrate the classes on kind of Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is what I suspect. And
So he's trying to make it sure so you guys all have a 3-day weekend. Not every weekend, especially when you transition from Oaxaca to Mexico City. I think that's going to be on this Saturday or Sunday. So be
Mhm.
prepared for that.
Yeah. Yeah. And my understanding from the program is, you will have a little freedom to travel. Personally, if you want to take one of those Mondays and run to the beach, you can do that. But that's kind of on you.
Yeah, well, I'll ask that you just let our on-site team know that where you're going, just for risk safety purposes. And yeah. All right, well, thank you all so much for joining us. I'm not seeing any questions come in, so we'll end the recording here, and I hope to see your application on November 1st.